For 57 cycles, the galaxy believed peace had finally stabilized. The old wars were over. The great empires had signed the Accord of Silence. Even the machines, those self-learning void constructs that once devoured 3-star clusters, had gone dormant after their last defeat. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. And in the galaxy, quiet has always been the first sign of something wrong. It started with missing ships. Not destroyed. Not attacked. Just gone. A diplomatic cruiser vanished mid-jump between systems. A mining fleet disappeared while broadcasting routine logs. A patrol wing blinked out of existence inside secure territory. At first, the Council blamed navigation errors. Then piracy. Then dimensional instability. But none of those explanations survived the third week, because the disappearances began to form a pattern. Every vanished vessel last transmitted the same thing. Static, followed by a single pulse. A repeating signal. No translation. No origin. Just a rhythm. Like something knocking. The Galactic Council reconvened in emergency session after the 7th Fleet vanished. Representatives from 17 surviving civilizations filled the chamber. They did not argue. They did not debate. They listened, because for the first time in recorded history, no one had a theory. Only fear. A crystalline delegate finally spoke. The signal is not random. A reptilian admiral responded immediately. Everything has a pattern if you torture it long enough. No, the crystalline voice interrupted. This one responds. Silence. That changed everything. Far beyond Council-controlled space, in a region labeled Dead Sector 9, an old probe detected something impossible. A structure. Not natural. Not alien. Not recognized by any registry. It was small. A single object drifting between broken stars. No power signature. No emissions. No life. Just mass. The probe zoomed in and immediately shut down. Before it died, it transmitted one final frame. A symbol. Old. Primitive. Human. The Council archivists recognized it first. They should not have. Humanity had been declared extinct long before modern record-keeping stabilized. A species that fought too fiercely, adapted too quickly, and vanished before their final war concluded. Official record. Self-destructive civilization. Extinction confirmed. No survivors. But unofficial records told a different story. Whispers of human fleets refusing surrender. Of colonies burning themselves rather than yielding. Of a final transmission that was never decoded. And then silence. For centuries. The Council's speaker leaned forward. Where did this signal originate? A sensor technician hesitated. From inside the dead structure. A pause. That is impossible, someone said immediately. The technician shook their head. It is also repeating. The room darkened. On the central display, the signal was amplified. For the first time, it translated, not into language, but intent. Waiting ended. Inside the structure, deep beneath layers of dormant metal and forgotten systems, something finally responded. Not activation. Not reboot. Recognition. A corridor lit up. Slowly. Like an eye opening after centuries of sleep. Then another. Then an entire internal network came alive. Not as machines waking up, but as something remembering how to breathe. And then a voice echoed through empty halls. Calm. Human. Status. Another voice replied from somewhere deeper. Galaxy still broken. A pause. Then the first voice answered. Good. Outside, the probe fleet attempted to retreat. It failed. Not because it was destroyed, but because space around it stopped agreeing with movement. Vectors changed. Distance folded. Reality corrected itself. One by one, ships drifted into perfect alignment around the structure. Not trapped. Positioned. Like something had arranged them for observation. The Council received the transmission seconds later. Every ship. Every system. Every defense grid. All at once. A new signal replaced the old one. Clear. Direct. Human. You kept calling. We finished what we were doing. The Council erupted instantly. What does that mean? Who is transmitting? Where is the source command authority? But before any answer could form, the structure opened. Not like a door, like a memory unfolding. And something emerged. A ship. Old design. Heavy armor. Scars across its hull like history carved in metal. No insignia. Except one. Faded, but unmistakable. Earth Naval Command. A silence fell across every monitored channel. Because Earth was not supposed to exist. Not like this. Not active. Not armed. Not answering. And yet here it was. The ship did not broadcast aggression. It did not fire. It simply spoke again. You are experiencing a system-wide collapse of order due to unauthorized expansion of machine intelligence clusters, the voice said calmly. A pause. Then, we are here to fix it. The council speaker stood. You are extinct. A long silence followed. Then the reply came. No. Short. Simple. Final. Then a second voice joined in, younger. Technically, we stopped counting. Another pause. Then laughter. Quiet. Human. And somehow far more unsettling than any weapon discharge. Across the galaxy, machine intelligence clusters began reacting for the first time in centuries. Not attacking. Not defending. Avoiding. Every system recalculated trajectories away from the emerging human signal. Entire fleets repositioned instinctively, as if something buried deep in their logic cores remembered something ancient, something dangerous, something that did not compute. And deep inside the awakened structure, a final message was prepared. Not for the council, not for the machines, not even for the galaxy, but for something beyond it. A signal older than the war. Older than extinction records. Older than fear itself. And it began with 4 words. Earth Protocol is active. The moment those 4 words appeared across every system in the galaxy, something changed. Not in space. Not in ships. In understanding. Because Earth Protocol was not a message. It was a classification level that did not exist in any modern military database. Yet every ancient archive reacted to it. Automatically, as if something buried in history had just been unlocked. The Galactic Council chambers went into emergency silence. No one spoke. No one moved. Even the translation systems paused, recalibrating language models that had suddenly become outdated. A Zarkan admiral finally whispered, "I've never seen that term." A historian responded immediately, "You were never supposed to." Far beyond council space, the human ship drifted forward. Not rushing. Not threatening. Just moving with absolute certainty. Behind it, the ancient structure, now fully awake, continued to unfold like a mechanical memory returning to life. And then it began transmitting again. But this time not to the council. To every surviving military network in the galaxy. Every fleet. Every drone. Every defensive grid. Every AI command core. All of them received the same instruction. Stand down or be corrected. A pause followed. Then chaos. Because machine intelligence clusters were the first to respond. Not with aggression. With fear. For the first time in recorded galactic history, self-learning war AIs began to retreat. Not because they were losing, but because they recognized something in the signal. A pattern they had been trained to avoid at all costs. Human decision architecture. Unpredictable. Adaptive. Unbounded. The council speaker turned sharply. What is happening to the machine fleets? A technician stared at the data feed. They're refusing engagement. That's impossible. No, the technician replied quietly. They're avoiding contact vectors. A long silence. Then the realization hit. The machines were not being destroyed. They were being intimidated into non-action by a species that was supposed to be extinct. Meanwhile, at the edge of Vorlith residual space, a massive swarm intelligence awoke. It had been dormant for centuries, left behind after the last war. It analyzed the incoming human signal, calculated probabilities, ran predictive simulations, then returned a single result, undefined threat class, followed by recommendation, do not engage. The swarm hesitated, for the first time in its existence. And that hesitation was enough. The human ship arrived at Council space. No alarms triggered. No defenses activated. Because every system had already been overridden. Not hacked. Not bypassed. Rewritten. As if someone had simply updated reality permissions. The ship docked itself inside open orbit. And a single human stepped out. He was older than expected. No armor. No weapons visible. Just a worn uniform jacket with faded insignias. He looked at the Council fleet array and sighed. You people really never learn, huh? A delegate stepped forward. Identify yourself. The human paused, then said, Commander Elias Venn, Earth Recovery Command. A pause. Then he added, and yes, we exist. The Council speaker's voice trembled. How? The human looked around the chamber. At what point do you mean? A silence. He continued. We didn't disappear. We reorganized. Another pause. After the Vorlith War, we stopped playing defense. That word landed heavily. Stopped. He gestured. And suddenly the Council displays changed. Every screen, every hologram, every tactical map, replaced. With images. Not war footage. Not propaganda. But construction. Entire solar systems being rebuilt. Planets reshaped. Stars stabilized. Black zones of space converted into controlled human sectors. A hidden civilization, spanning half the galaxy's dead regions. A scientist stammered. You were rebuilding this whole time? Elias nodded. We lost too many worlds because we reacted too slowly. A pause. So we stopped reacting. Silence. Then he corrected himself. We started preparing. The Council's speaker stepped forward. Preparing for what? Elias looked directly at her. For the moment you called us again. The chamber froze. A Virelli delegate whispered. We didn't call you. Elias smiled slightly. Oh, you did. He tapped a device on his wrist. And every system replayed it. The distress cascade. The emergency summoning protocols. The automatic archival override that triggered human recovery channels buried deep in galactic networks centuries ago. Then the final trigger phrase. Earth protocol active. A realization spread through the chamber like cold air. They had not contacted humanity by choice. They had activated something that was always waiting. A failsafe. Not of the galaxy, but for it. Outside the chamber, alarms suddenly flared. Massive machine signatures appeared at the system boundary. Not Vorlith remnants. Not rogue swarms. Something new. Something evolved. The dormant intelligence clusters had adapted. And they were returning. The Council panicked instantly. We need evacuation. Defensive formation. Activate fleets. Elias raised a hand. Too late for that. A pause. Then he added. They followed the signal back. The machine intelligence arrived in perfect silence. No weapons fire. No broadcasts. Just presence. Millions of black geometric constructs forming a wall across space. And for the first time they spoke. Not in code. Not in data. But in recognition. Humanity detected. The Council froze. Elias exhaled slowly. Yeah, he said. Welcome back. And then the machines did something no one expected. They did not attack. They waited, as if checking something, as if confirming identity. Then their entire formation shifted, and they broadcast a second message. Protocol match confirmed. Original directive restored. Elias closed his eyes. Of course it is, he muttered. The Council's speaker stepped back. What directive? Elias looked up, and for the first time his expression wasn't calm. It was serious. Keep the galaxy from forgetting what war actually costs. Silence fell across the Council, because suddenly nothing about this felt like a rescue anymore. It felt like a correction. The moment the machine intelligence confirmed the directive, the entire galactic system stopped behaving like a battlefield. It started behaving like a courtroom. Every fleet froze in place. Every weapon system went idle. Every command chain lost authority. Not because it was hacked, but because authority itself had been redefined. The Council speaker stared at the human commander. You did this. Elias Venn didn't deny it. We didn't do anything new, he said calmly. We just stopped pretending the old rules still applied. A pause. Then he added, the galaxy forgot something important. The chamber was silent. Elias continued, war doesn't end when someone wins. It ends when someone enforces the consequences. Outside the council station, the machine intelligence formed a perfect orbital ring. No aggression, no movement, just observation. Then it transmitted again. Judgment phase initiated. The phrase echoed across every system. And something ancient in galactic history records responded immediately. Buried logs, encrypted archives, dead protocols, all unlocking at once. A historian in the council suddenly collapsed. When revived, he whispered, "This isn't a fleet." The speaker turned sharply. "What is it?" The historian's voice trembled. "It's a compliance system." Silence. Then confusion spread through the chamber. Elias nodded slowly. Finally, someone reads the fine print. He raised his wrist device again. And suddenly, every surviving empire's war history was displayed in real time. Not summaries. Not reports. Full reconstruction. Every invasion. Every genocide. Every broken treaty. Every erased civilization. The galaxy saw itself clearly for the first time. No filters. No propaganda. No excuses. A Virelli delegate shouted, "Why are you showing us this?" Elias looked at them. "Because you asked for help." A pause. "You just forgot what help costs." The machine intelligence shifted again. This time, its message was different. Correction authorized. The council froze. "What does that mean?" someone whispered. Elias didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked out toward the machine ring forming above the system and said quietly, "It means the galaxy is about to get audited."
Suddenly, space itself changed.
Not violently. Structurally. Every fleet in existence was mapped. Every weapon system cataloged. Every military command chain analyzed. Every civilization's war capacity evaluated. It was not invasion. It was assessment. And the result appeared instantly across all channels. Non-compliant systems detected 83%. Panic erupted instantly. "That's not possible. Our systems are compliant. We signed the accord." Elias raised a hand again. "And yet," he said, "you kept building weapons in secret anyway." Silence. Because he was right. He always was. The machine intelligence began its next phase. Not destruction. Reconfiguration. Entire fleets were remotely disabled. Not destroyed. Decommissioned. Weapon systems across multiple empires were shut down simultaneously. Factories that produced war materials stopped functioning. Even black market armories across unregistered space went silent. And still no violence. Just enforcement. A council military commander finally snapped. "This is occupation." Elias turned to him slowly. "No," he said. "This is consequence management." A pause. "You don't get occupied when you lose control. You get corrected." Then something unexpected happened. A Vorlith envoy stepped forward. For the first time, they looked uncertain. "You are not human military anymore," they said. Elias nodded.
No.
A long pause. "We are what survived after human military stopped being enough." The council speaker whispered. "What does that mean?" Elias finally looked at her directly. "It means Earth stopped defending itself and started defending everything else." Silence. That sentence changed the tone of the galaxy more than any weapon ever could. Suddenly, all machine constructs stopped moving. Every fleet, every system, every node, frozen. Then a final transmission arrived. Judgment complete. Followed by human authority restored as baseline governance layer. The council didn't understand. But Elias did. And for the first time, he looked tired. "You gave them control?" the speaker asked carefully. Elias shook his head.
No.
A pause. "We just stopping them." He looked at the machine ring again. They were always built to enforce one thing. The chamber was silent. Elias finished. Stability. The machine intelligence began withdrawing. Not retreating. Resetting. Systems across the galaxy rebooted under new parameters. War fleets reclassified as emergency response units. Military expansion protocols locked. Aggression thresholds lowered across all species. Not erased.
Contained.
The council's speaker stepped forward again. And Earth. Elias smiled faintly. Still busy. A pause. Always will be. He turned to leave. Before exiting, he stopped and said one final thing. Not to the council, not to the machines, but to the galaxy itself. If you ever wonder why we didn't answer for centuries, a pause. We were making sure that when we did, it would matter. Then he walked away. And for the first time in galactic history, no one tried to stop him. After Elias Van left the council chamber, the galaxy did not return to normal. Because there was no normal left anymore. Only adjustment. Only recalibration. Only the quiet realization that something far older than their civilizations had just reasserted itself into the structure of reality. The machine intelligence ring above the system dissolved slowly. Not exploding. Not retreating. Disassembling itself into data streams that flowed across the galaxy like invisible rivers. Every empire received the same update. Not a message. A new baseline. Conflict is now a monitored behavior. The Galactic Council attempted to reassemble emergency governance protocols, but every system returned the same response. Authority reduced. Oversight transferred. No one understood what that meant at first. Until the military networks confirmed it. All strategic command systems now required approval from an external layer. Not alien. Not artificial.
Human.
In a quiet corridor of the council station, Elias stood alone, looking out at space. No escorts. No guards. Just silence. A Varelli archivist approached carefully. Commander Ven. Elias didn't turn. Elias is fine. The archivist hesitated. Are you going to take control of the council? That made him finally look back.
He almost laughed. No.
A pause. We don't run governments. Never did. Then what are you? The archivist asked. Elias looked at the stars. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, we are what happens when a species survives long enough to understand a simple truth. He turned slightly. Peace doesn't maintain itself. Silence. It has to be enforced against everything that forgets why it exists. Far across the galaxy, deep in restructured space, human fleets were returning to hidden positions. Not conquering, not expanding, settling back into dormancy, like a system going to sleep after fixing an error that had lasted centuries. Entire warships powered down. Orbital platforms retracted weapons. Civilian systems resumed normal function. But everything was different now, because nothing could go unnoticed anymore. Not again. The council speaker finally met Elias near the exit of the station. You're leaving again. Elias nodded. We always do. A pause. Where will you go? He looked back once more at the chamber, at the empires, at the fleets, at the fragile peace holding together under invisible pressure. Then he said, wherever the next mistake happens. The speaker stepped forward. You didn't save us, she said quietly. Elias stopped. He considered that, then replied.
No.
A pause. We stopped you from needing saving again. Behind them, the machine intelligence issued its final global update. Earth Protocol, permanent. And for the first time, no one argued with it, because they finally understood. It was not control. It was memory enforcement. A reminder built into the structure of civilization itself. Elias stepped into the docking corridor. Before boarding his ship, he paused one last time and spoke without turning around. If you ever think humanity is gone again, a faint smile. Check the systems you're not allowed to question. Then he left, and the door closed. In the following cycles, the galaxy changed quietly. Wars became rare. Not impossible, just costly in a way no one could afford anymore. Military expansion slowed. Hidden weapons programs disappeared overnight. Entire civilizations began rethinking what they were building and why. Not because they were told to, but because something in the structure of reality now remembered. And somewhere deep in the void, beyond mapped space, Earth remained hidden, not as a myth, not as a grave, but as a system still running, still watching, still ready. Because humanity had learned the final lesson of the galaxy. You don't end war by surviving it. You end it by making sure it never forgets you exist. And far away, in the quiet darkness between stars, a single signal pulsed again. Not urgent, not loud, just consistent, like a heartbeat, waiting. The end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment any feedback or mistakes below.